You know what they say about the moment your life falls apart? That time slows down, that you see everything with crystal clarity, that some profound wisdom washes over you like a gentle wave of acceptance. Well, whoever said that was lying through their teeth. When my wife Lana looked me straight in the eye and said, "Derek appreciates me more than you ever did," while adjusting her lipstick in our hallway mirror, time didn't slow down. It sped up like a freight train heading straight for a brick wall. And that brick wall was my face. I'm Drake Torrin, 38 years old, IT consultant for mid-sized companies that think they're bigger than they are. I fix their computer problems, update their security systems, and listen to them complain about how technology is ruining their lives while they can't function for 5 minutes without their smartphones. It's honest work, pays the bills, and gives me plenty of time to observe how stupid people can be when they think nobody's watching. Lana, my wife of 12 years, works in real estate. Or worked, I should say. Past tense seems more appropriate now. She's 36, blonde in that expensive salon way, and has always had what my mother would call champagne tastes on a beer budget. Except we weren't even making beer money by her standards. Derek Hanley is her boss. 45, drives a Tesla, owns half the luxury properties in Houston's West Side, and apparently has been appreciating my wife in ways that would make a marriage counselor reach for the strongest coffee available. The night everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I was in my home office, debugging code for a client who insisted their system was hacked by Russians, when really they just forgot their password. Lana came home late, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the way she walked into the house like she owned it, and I was just renting space. "We need to talk," she announced, dropping her designer purse on our second-hand couch. Now I've been married long enough to know that "we need to talk" translates to "I'm about to ruin your evening, possibly your week, and definitely your faith in human decency." But I closed my laptop and gave her my full attention, because that's what you do when you're trying to save a marriage that's been circling the drain for months. "Sure," I said. "What's on your mind?" She didn't sit down. Instead, she stood there in our living room, still wearing her work clothes, looking like she was about to deliver a presentation to investors, which in a way, she was. "I'm not happy, Drake. I haven't been happy for a long time." I nodded. This wasn't news. We'd been through this conversation before, usually after she'd spent time with her successful friends who married doctors and lawyers instead of IT guys who work from home in sweatpants. "Okay," I said. "What do you want to do about it?" That's when she smiled. Not a happy smile, not a sad smile, but something that looked like she'd just won a lottery I didn't know she'd entered. "Derek and I are going to New Orleans this weekend. We're going to figure out what we want." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. I processed them the way I process code, looking for the logic, the structure, the meaning behind the syntax. "Derek, your boss, Derek? Derek who appreciates me, Derek." And there it was, the smirk, the same expression she used to give telemarketers before hanging up on them, the look she reserved for people she considered beneath her notice, except now she was giving it to me. "I see," I said, which was about the most civilized response I could manage when what I really wanted to say would have made a sailor blush. "I'll be back Sunday night. We can talk then." She grabbed a suitcase from our bedroom closet, packed like she'd been planning this for weeks, and left me sitting on our couch, wondering when I'd become the kind of man whose wife announces her affair like she's announcing a business trip. I heard Derek's Tesla pull into our driveway, heard Lana's heels clicking across our hardwood floors, heard the front door close with the kind of finality that makes you realize some sounds are actually punctuation marks at the end of sentences you didn't know you were reading. Then I heard them laughing as they drove away. Now, I'm not the kind of man who throws things when he's angry. I'm not the kind who punches walls or screams at the television. I'm the kind who sits very still, thinks very clearly, and plans very carefully. It served me well in my career, and it was about to serve me very well in what I was already starting to think of as my new hobby. I opened my laptop and started doing what I do best, gathering information. Lana's social media accounts were still logged in on our shared computer. Her email was still syncing to the tablet we used for grocery lists. Her text messages were still backing up to the cloud storage account I managed. She'd been so confident in her secret that she'd forgotten the first rule of having an affair in the digital age. Someone in your house knows all your passwords. The evidence was beautiful in its stupidity. Months of messages between her and Derek. Restaurant receipts from places I'd never been. Hotel bookings for business conferences that didn't exist. Photos of jewelry I'd never bought her. Plans for trips I'd never been invited on. But the real treasure was in her messages to her friends. Lana had been complaining about me for months, calling me unmotivated and satisfied with mediocrity. She told them Derek was everything Drake isn't, and that she deserved someone who understands ambition. Her friend Jennifer had responded, "Girl, you need to upgrade. Life's too short for settling." Her friend Michelle had been even more direct. "Derek's loaded and he's into you. What are you waiting for?" I screenshot everything, organized it into folders, created a timeline, built a case like I was preparing for trial, because in a way, I was. By Friday morning, I had enough evidence to end her career, her relationship with Derek, and any sympathy she might expect from friends and family. But I wasn't ready to use it yet. First, I wanted to see how far she'd push this. The answer came Saturday afternoon in the form of social media posts from New Orleans. Lana and Derek at expensive restaurants. Lana and Derek on a riverboat cruise. Lana and Derek looking very much like a couple celebrating something special. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The captions were masterpieces of passive-aggressive communication. Finally, with someone who knows how to treat a woman right. Some people are worth waiting for. New Orleans with the right person hits different. Each post was a small slap across my face, delivered with the precision of someone who wanted to make sure I was paying attention. And I was. I was paying very close attention indeed. Sunday evening came and went. No Lana, no phone call, no text message. Monday morning, I got an email that made everything clear. "Drake, I've decided to stay in New Orleans a few more days. Derek and I have some things to work out. Don't wait up. Also, can you transfer some money to my account? The hotel here is more expensive than we thought. Thanks. L." She'd signed it with her initial, like I was her assistant instead of her husband. That's when I stopped feeling hurt and started feeling something much more useful. Absolutely, completely, ice-cold calm. I walked to our bedroom and opened Lana's jewelry box. Empty. I checked her side of the closet. Half empty. I looked in our bathroom. Her expensive skincare products were gone. She hadn't gone to New Orleans for a weekend. She'd moved there, one suitcase at a time, and expected me to fund her new life with her boss. I sat down at my computer and started typing. Not an angry email, not a hurt husband's plea for reconciliation, but something much more dangerous, a response that would let her know the game had changed, and I was no longer playing defense. "Lana, I hope you're enjoying New Orleans. I've been busy too. I've changed the locks, moved all joint funds to accounts with only my name, and filed paperwork with a lawyer citing marital abandonment. I've also had some interesting conversations with people who might find your recent activities professionally relevant. Enjoy the hotel. You'll be paying for it yourself from now on. P.S. You sure you can spell alimony? Drake." I hit send and leaned back in my chair. The first shot had been fired, and it felt better than I'd expected. My phone rang within 10 minutes. "You can't do this!" Lana's voice came through my phone like fingernails on a chalkboard. "You can't just lock me out of my own house." I was sitting on my front porch, drinking coffee and watching my neighbor Mrs. Patterson walk her ancient beagle. It was a beautiful Tuesday morning, and I was feeling more relaxed than I had in months. Good morning to you too, Lana. How's the weather in New Orleans? Don't you dare act casual with me, Drake. I know what you're trying to do. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm doing it. There's a difference. I could hear traffic in the background, which meant she was probably standing on a street corner somewhere, frantically calling me between whatever romantic activities she had planned with Derek. You moved our money. That's theft. I moved my money. You abandoned our marriage, remember? Derek appreciates me more than you ever did. Ring any bells? The silence stretched long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Then I heard her breathing, sharp and angry. I never said I was leaving permanently. Your social media posts suggest otherwise. Finally, with someone who knows how to treat a woman right. That's a direct quote from your Instagram. You're stalking me online now? I'm observing public posts on social media platforms. It's called paying attention, something I should have been doing months ago. Mrs. Patterson waved at me from across the street. I waved back. She probably thought I was having a pleasant phone conversation with my wife. Drake, listen to me very carefully. I'm coming home Thursday, and you're going to let me in, and we're going to work this out like adults. Actually, Lana, you're not coming home Thursday. You're not coming home at all. This is my home now. You made your choice. We'll see about that. She hung up, which was fine with me. I had work to do. My sister-in-law, Jessa, called me an hour later. Jessa is Lana's older sister, but she's always been the smart one in that family. She works as a paralegal downtown and has exactly zero patience for drama. Drake, what the hell is going on? Lana just called me screaming about locks and bank accounts. Hey, Jessa, your sister decided to move to New Orleans with her boss. I'm adjusting accordingly. She what now? I gave Jessa the abbreviated version of recent events. Unlike Lana, Jessa listened without interrupting, asked clarifying questions, and processed information like someone who actually uses her brain for thinking. So she's been cheating with Derek for months, posted it all over social media, and now she's mad that you're not funding her affair. That's a pretty accurate summary. Jesus, Drake, I'm sorry. I knew she'd been acting weird lately, but I didn't think she'd be this stupid. Stupid might be an understatement. What can I do to help? That question surprised me. I'd expected Jessa to stay neutral, to try to mediate, to suggest counseling or reconciliation. Instead, she was offering to pick sides. You don't have to get involved in this, Jessa. She's your sister. She's my sister, and I love her, but she's being an idiot. Derek Hanley is bad news. Everyone in real estate knows it. He's been through 3 wives and about a dozen affairs. If Lana thinks he's going to leave his current setup for her, she's delusional. This was interesting information. Current setup? He's been living with some 25-year-old model for 2 years, bought her a condo, pays her bills, the whole sugar daddy arrangement. Lana thinks she's special, but she's just the latest side piece. I felt something that might have been sympathy for my wife, but it passed quickly. She'd made her choices with full access to the same information Jessa had. So, what's your plan? Jessa asked. I'm going to let her figure out who Derek really is on her own. Should be educational. And then? Then I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person she is. Jessa was quiet for a moment. Drake, be careful. Don't do anything that could come back to hurt you legally. Everything I'm doing is completely legal. I'm just not protecting her from the consequences of her own actions anymore. Good. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. Let me know if you need anything. After Jessa hung up, I sat on my porch thinking about consequences. Lana had spent 12 years assuming I'd always be there to clean up her messes, to pay for her mistakes, to absorb her bad decisions without complaint. She'd gotten comfortable with the idea that I was safe, predictable, controllable. She was about to learn how wrong she'd been. I spent the rest of Tuesday organizing my evidence and planning my next moves. Wednesday morning, I put the first phase of my plan into action. Derek's real estate company had a website with staff photos and contact information. I found the HR department email address and sent a carefully worded message. To whom it may concern. I have reason to believe that one of your employees, Lana Torrin, may be engaged in activities that violate your company's professional conduct policies. I have documentation of an ongoing inappropriate relationship between Ms. Torrin and her supervisor, Derek Hanley, including evidence that company resources may have been used to facilitate personal activities. I'm happy to provide this documentation if you're interested in reviewing it. Sincerely, a concerned party. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. The evidence would speak for itself. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone was ringing again. Drake, what did you do? Lana sounded panicked now instead of angry. I had lunch. Tuna sandwich. It was pretty good. How was your day? Someone sent information to my HR department. They're asking me questions about Derek. That sounds stressful. This is harassment, Drake. I can prove you're trying to sabotage my career. Can you? Because I haven't done anything to sabotage your career. Your career seems to be sabotaging itself. I'm going to call your boss. I'm going to tell him what kind of person you really are. Go ahead. My boss knows exactly what kind of person I am. I'm the guy who shows up on time, does good work, and doesn't sleep with his colleagues. He appreciates those qualities. She hung up again, but this time I knew she'd follow through on her threat. Lana wasn't the type to make empty promises when she was cornered. Sure enough, Thursday morning, my boss called. Drake, I got a weird call yesterday from someone claiming to be your wife. She said some pretty strange things about your character and your work ethic. My boss, Tom, is a good guy. We've worked together for 5 years, and he's seen me handle everything from simple software updates to major security breaches. He knows my work, and more importantly, he trusts my judgment. What kind of strange things? She said you were unstable, that you'd been acting erratically, that you might be a security risk. She suggested you might be accessing client information inappropriately. I took a deep breath. Lana had just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Tom, my wife left me for her boss. She's been trying to damage my reputation because I'm not cooperating with her attempts to take half of everything I own. I can provide documentation of everything I just told you if you need it. That won't be necessary. I've seen your work for 5 years. I know who you are. But Drake, if this gets messier, you need to let me know. I can't have personal drama affecting our clients. Understood. And Tom, thanks for calling me instead of just believing her. Of course, anyone who knows you knows those accusations don't make sense. After Tom hung up, I sat in my office staring at my computer screen. Lana had just tried to destroy my livelihood because I wouldn't let her destroy my life. The sympathy I'd been fighting finally disappeared completely. I opened my email and sent a message to Derek's HR department with my real name this time. This is Drake Torrin, Lana Torrin's husband. Yesterday, my wife attempted to damage my professional reputation by making false accusations to my employer. This appears to be retaliation for my refusal to financially support her ongoing affair with Derek Hanley. I'm attaching documentation of their relationship, including evidence that company time and resources have been used inappropriately. I'm also attaching records of my wife's attempt to interfere with my employment. I trust you'll handle this matter appropriately. I attached everything, every text message, every email, every social media post, every receipt. I attached screenshots of her friends encouraging the affair. I attached records of the joint accounts she'd expected me to keep funding while she played house with her boss. Then I sent copies to Derek's company's main office, their legal department, and their professional licensing board. By Friday afternoon, Lana was calling me every hour. I didn't answer. Saturday morning, Jessa called. Drake, Lana's been trying to reach you. Derek fired her yesterday. That's unfortunate. She's stuck in New Orleans with no job and no money. Derek told her the company can't be associated with the scandal. Sounds like Derek's learning about consequences, too. She wants to come home. She is home. She's with the man who appreciates her more than I ever did, remember? Jessa sighed. Drake, I'm not defending what she did, but she's my sister. She's scared and she's broke and she doesn't know what to do. She can figure it out the same way everyone else does, by dealing with the results of her own choices. What if she apologizes? Jessa, she tried to get me fired. She tried to destroy my reputation and my career because I wouldn't pay for her affair. An apology doesn't fix that. So what happens now? I looked out my window at the house I no longer had to share with someone who didn't respect me, didn't appreciate me, and didn't deserve me. Now she learns what life is like without someone cleaning up her messes. And Derek? I smiled, thinking about the information Jessa had shared about Derek's living situation. Derek's about to have some interesting conversations with his girlfriend about where he's been spending his time lately. How do you know? Because I sent her copies of everything too. Sunday morning brought the kind of silence I hadn't experienced in 12 years of marriage. No one asking me to fix the coffee maker that worked perfectly fine. No one complaining that the house was too cold, too hot, too quiet, or too loud. No one scheduling my weekends around activities I didn't want to attend with people I didn't particularly like. It was glorious. I was drinking my coffee and reading the news when my phone buzzed with a text from Jessa. You need to see Lana's Instagram. She deleted most of the New Orleans posts. I opened the app and scrolled through Lana's recent activity. Jessa was right. The romantic dinner photos were gone. The riverboat pictures had disappeared. The captions about being finally appreciated had vanished into the digital void. What remained was much more interesting. Her most recent post was a single photo of a hotel room window with the caption, "Sometimes you have to learn the hard way who really has your back." The comments were even better. Jennifer. Girl, what happened? Call me. Michelle. Are you okay? You've been quiet. Her friend Ashley. Lana, people are saying things about you and Derek. Is everything okay? I screenshot everything before she could delete those too. My phone rang. Jessa. She called me at 6 this morning crying, Jessa said without preamble. Derek left her at the hotel Friday night and hasn't been back. Left her? Packed his stuff and disappeared. Didn't pay the hotel bill, didn't leave money, didn't even leave a note. She's been trying to reach him since yesterday. I felt something that wasn't quite satisfaction but was definitely in the same neighborhood. What about his girlfriend? Apparently Derek's girlfriend got copies of all those photos and messages you sent. She showed up at the hotel Friday afternoon with 2 large men who looked like they could bench press a car. Derek chose discretion over valor. Wise choice. Lana's stuck with a hotel bill she can't pay, no job, and no way to get home. She wants to know if you'll wire her money for a bus ticket. I considered this request while watching Mrs. Patterson's beagle investigate something fascinating in my front yard. No. Drake, she's stranded. She's an adult who made adult decisions. She can figure out adult solutions. What if she can't? Then she'll learn something valuable about planning ahead. Jessa was quiet for a moment. You're really not going to help her? Jessa, 3 days ago, she tried to get me fired. She told my boss I was unstable and potentially dangerous. She tried to destroy my career because I wouldn't fund her affair. Now she wants me to rescue her from the consequences of her own choices? When you put it like that, there's no other way to put it. She made her bed. Now she gets to sleep in it. Okay, but Drake? She's talking about coming back to Houston anyway. She says the house is half hers and you can't keep her out forever. This was interesting. Did she say how she plans to get back to Houston with no money? She's got some kind of plan. She wouldn't tell me what it was, but she sounded confident. After Jessa hung up, I spent some time thinking about what kind of plan Lana might have. She wasn't the type to hitchhike or take charity from strangers. She was too proud to ask her friends for money, especially now that they were asking awkward questions about her recent behavior. The answer came Monday afternoon in the form of a phone call from my bank. Mr. Torrin, we're calling about some unusual activity on your account. Someone attempted to make a large withdrawal using your wife's identification, but the account shows only your name now. That's correct. What kind of withdrawal? $1,500. The person claimed it was for a family emergency. Where did this happen? New Orleans. The person seemed surprised that the account had been changed. I'll bet she was. Thank you for calling. No, I didn't authorize any withdrawals. Yes, I'd like to be notified of any future attempts. So that was Lana's plan. She'd assumed I was bluffing about the bank accounts, that I'd left her access for emergencies. She'd probably walked into that bank expecting to withdraw enough money to solve her immediate problems and discovered that her financial safety net had been permanently removed. My phone started ringing an hour later. I didn't answer. It rang again and again. Finally, I picked up. Drake, please, I need help. Lana's voice was different now, smaller. The confidence and entitlement had been replaced by something that sounded almost like humility. Hello, Lana. How's New Orleans treating you? Derek's gone. He left me here with nothing. That's unfortunate, but not surprising. Jessa mentioned he's not known for his loyalty. I can't pay the hotel. They're talking about calling the police. That does sound like a problem. Drake, please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm scared. I don't know what to do. For just a moment, I felt the old instinct to fix her problems, to be the reliable husband who cleaned up her messes and absorbed her bad decisions. Then I remembered her standing in our living room with that smirk, telling me Derek appreciated her more than I ever did. Lana, you're a smart, capable woman. You'll figure something out. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just not doing anything for you. There's a difference. I'm your wife. You were my wife. Then you decided Derek was a better option. How's that working out for you? The silence stretched long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Then I heard something I hadn't heard from Lana in years. She was crying. Not angry crying, not manipulative crying, but the kind of crying that comes from genuine fear and desperation. I waited. Drake, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Derek promised me things and I believed him, and I was wrong about everything. What kind of things? He said he was going to leave his girlfriend. He said we could be together, that he'd take care of me. He said I deserved better than what I had. Better than me, you mean? I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. You said it to my face, Lana. You posted it on social media. You told your friends I was holding you back from the life you deserved. I was confused. I was unhappy, and he made me feel special, and I thought, you thought you could trade up. You thought Derek was an upgrade from your boring husband who pays the bills and fixes the problems and never complains when you spend money we don't have on things we don't need. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been talking to me about your unhappiness before you started sleeping with your boss. Fair would have been asking for a divorce before you moved in with another man. Fair would have been not trying to destroy my career when I refused to fund your affair. She was quiet again. Lana, you made a choice. You chose Derek over me. You chose excitement over stability. You chose the fantasy he was selling over the reality we had built together. Those were your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. So you're just going to abandon me? I'm going to do exactly what you did to me. I'm going to prioritize my own happiness over your comfort. Drake, please, I'll do anything. I'll make it up to you. I'll be a better wife. Lana, you won't be any kind of wife. We're getting divorced. We can work this out. People get past affairs. We can go to counseling. People get past affairs when both partners want to save the marriage. You didn't want to save our marriage. You wanted to replace it with something better. You just picked the wrong replacement. I could hear voices in the background, official-sounding voices that probably belonged to hotel management. Drake, they're here. They want to talk to me about the bill. Then you should talk to them. What am I supposed to say? The truth. You're here with a man who abandoned you, you don't have money to pay the bill, and you need to work out a payment plan or find alternative accommodations. I can't stay on the street. Then don't. Figure out another option. Call your friends, call your parents, call a shelter. Call anyone except me. My friends think I'm a joke. My parents haven't spoken to me since I told them I was leaving you for Derek. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Everyone's not wrong. The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but I didn't take them back. I have to go, she said quietly. They want to talk to me. Good luck, Lana. She hung up, and I sat in my quiet house thinking about choices and consequences and the difference between helping someone and enabling them. Tuesday morning, Jessa called with an update. She's coming back to Houston. Don't ask me how she managed it, but she'll be here tonight. Interesting. Any idea what her plan is? She thinks she can convince you to let her move back in temporarily while you work things out. That's not going to happen. I told her that. She thinks I'm wrong. She's been wrong about a lot of things lately. Drake, she's going to show up at your door. She's going to cry and apologize and promise to change. Are you prepared for that? I looked around my peaceful house, thought about my quiet mornings and my drama-free evenings and my bank account that hadn't been mysteriously depleted by emergency shopping trips. Yeah, Jessa, I'm prepared. What are you going to do? I'm going to let her see exactly how much her choices have cost her. That evening, I sat on my front porch with a beer and waited. I didn't have to wait long. The taxi pulled up at 7:30, just as the sun was setting behind Mrs. Patterson's oak tree. Lana stepped out looking like she'd been through a blender set on life lessons. Her hair was flat, her clothes were wrinkled, and she was carrying a single suitcase that looked like it had been through airport security about 15 times too many. She paid the driver with what appeared to be her last $20 bill and walked up my driveway like she was approaching a hostile witness. I stayed on the porch, beer in hand, watching her performance. Drake. She stopped at the bottom of my front steps. Lana, welcome back to Houston. Can we talk inside? We can talk right here. She looked around at the neighbors' houses, probably calculating how many people might be listening to whatever conversation we were about to have. It's private. Nothing about our relationship has been private lately. You made sure of that with your social media updates. She climbed the steps and stood near my porch railing, close enough to talk quietly but far enough away that I didn't feel crowded. I made mistakes, she began. Yes, you did. Big mistakes. Enormous mistakes. I want to fix them. I took a sip of my beer and studied her face. She looked genuinely miserable, which was probably the first authentic emotion she'd shown in months. How do you plan to do that? I want to come home. I want us to work this out. I want to be married to you, not divorced from you. That's what you want. What do I get out of this arrangement? The question seemed to surprise her. She'd probably expected me to be grateful for her willingness to settle for her boring husband after her exciting boyfriend had abandoned her. You get your wife back. I had a wife. She left me for her boss, remember? That's over. Derek and I are finished. Because he dumped you, not because you chose me. Does it matter why? I considered this question while watching Mrs. Patterson's porch light come on across the street. Yeah, Lana, it matters. It matters because you didn't leave Derek for me. Derek left you, and now you're here because you don't have anywhere else to go. That's not true, isn't it? If Derek had asked you to stay, would you be here right now? She was quiet long enough to answer the question without words. I thought so, I said. Drake, I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible choices. But we had 12 good years together. Doesn't that count for something? We had 12 years together. I'm not sure how many of them were actually good. They were good for me. They were convenient for you. There's a difference. She sat down on my porch steps without being invited, which was very much like her. Lana had always been comfortable making herself at home in spaces where she wasn't necessarily welcome. "What do you want me to say, Drake? That I'm sorry? I'm sorry? That I made a mistake? I made a huge mistake? That I want to make it up to you? I do. What I want you to say is that you understand why we can't go back to the way things were. We don't have to go back. We can go forward. We can be better." "No, Lana, we can't." "Why not?" I finished my beer and set the empty bottle on the table beside my chair. "Because 3 days ago, you tried to get me fired. You called my boss and told him I was unstable and potentially dangerous. You tried to destroy my career because I wouldn't pay for your affair with Derek. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking very clearly. You were thinking that if you could damage my reputation and my ability to earn money, I'd have to cooperate with whatever you wanted. That's not what I was thinking. That's exactly what you were thinking, and it tells me everything I need to know about who you really are when you don't get your way." She turned to look at me directly for the first time since she'd arrived. "So that's it? One mistake and our marriage is over?" "Lana, it wasn't one mistake. It was months of lying, cheating, and planning. It was public humiliation on social media. It was telling your friends I was holding you back from the life you deserved. It was moving in with another man while you were still married to me. And when I didn't cooperate with funding your new life, it was trying to destroy my livelihood out of spite. I can change. You can change for the next person. We're done." She stood up and walked to the front door, testing the handle like she thought I might be bluffing about the locks. "This is my house too. This was your house. You abandoned it when you moved to New Orleans with Derek. I never officially moved anywhere. Your suitcase full of belongings and your week-long absence suggest otherwise. You can't just kick me out of my own home. I'm not kicking you out, you left. I'm just not letting you back in. Where am I supposed to go? The same place you were going before Derek abandoned you. You had a plan then, you can make a plan now. I don't have any money. You should have thought about that before you quit your job to run away with your boss. I didn't quit. I was fired because of what you did." This was interesting. Lana was rewriting history in real time, turning her affair into my fault. "You were fired because you were sleeping with your supervisor and using company resources for personal activities. I just made sure the right people knew about it. You ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." She walked back to where I was sitting, and for a moment I thought she might try to grab my keys or my phone or something equally dramatic. Instead, she just stood there, looking defeated. "Drake, I'm begging you. I have nowhere to go. I have no money, no job, no friends who will help me. I made terrible choices, but I can't survive on the street. Call Jessa. She'll help you figure something out. Jessa thinks I'm an idiot. Jessa's right. Please. Just for a few days. Just until I can get back on my feet." I looked at her standing there in her wrinkled clothes with her single suitcase, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Absolutely nothing. No anger, no sympathy, no residual love, no desire for revenge. Just a complete absence of emotional investment in her problems. "Lana, if I let you stay here, what happens next? You'll want access to money for food and gas and job interviews. You'll want to use my address for employment applications. You'll want references and recommendations and help rebuilding the life you destroyed. And eventually, you'll want me to forgive you and take you back, because it's easier than starting over with someone new. Would that be so terrible? For me? Yes, it would be terrible. Because I'd be teaching you that there are no real consequences for betraying me, lying to me, and trying to destroy my career when I don't cooperate with your plans. So you're going to let me be homeless? I'm going to let you be responsible for your own choices." She picked up her suitcase and walked back down my front steps. "This isn't over, Drake." "Yeah, Lana, it is." She walked to the end of my driveway and stood there for a moment, probably hoping I'd change my mind and call her back, When I didn't, she started walking down the street toward the main road. I watched until she disappeared around the corner, then went inside my house and locked the door. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Jessa. She's at my apartment. She says you threw her out. I didn't throw her out. She left last week and I didn't let her back in. She's crying and talking about lawyers and community property and how you can't abandon your wife. She can talk to my lawyer about community property. As for abandoning my wife, she should probably discuss that with Derek. What do you want me to do with her? Whatever you think is best. She's not my problem anymore. Drake, she's talking crazy. She says she's going to make you pay for humiliating her. Let her try. What does that mean? I walked to my home office and looked at the files I'd been organizing for the past week. Financial records, communication logs, social media screenshots, employment records, legal documents. It means I'm prepared for whatever she wants to try next. Should I be worried? Not about me. But Lana might want to be careful about making threats she can't back up. What are you going to do? Nothing, unless she forces me to do something. And if she forces you? I thought about Derek's Tesla, about his company's HR department, about his girlfriend's reaction to learning about his affair with my wife. Then she'll learn that some people are better at playing games than others. After Jessa hung up, I sat in my quiet house and waited to see what Lana would try next. I didn't have to wait long. Thursday morning, I found a legal-looking envelope taped to my front door. Inside was a letter from a lawyer I'd never heard of, demanding that I provide Lana with temporary spousal support and access to the marital residence while divorce proceedings were pending. The letter was full of impressive legal language and vague threats about consequences for marital misconduct and failure to meet spousal obligations. I called my own lawyer, a woman named Patricia, who specialized in divorce cases and had exactly zero patience for dramatic nonsense. Drake, this letter isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Your wife abandoned the marriage, committed adultery, and tried to interfere with your employment. Any judge who sees your evidence is going to laugh her out of court. So I can ignore it? You can respond to it. In fact, I think you should respond to it, but not the way she's expecting. What do you mean? I mean it's time to go on offense instead of defense. Friday afternoon, Lana received her own legal envelope. This one contained a formal petition for divorce citing adultery and abandonment, a request for attorney's fees, and a demand that she cease all harassment and threats. It also contained copies of every piece of evidence I'd collected over the past 2 weeks. My phone started ringing at 6 o'clock. I didn't answer. It rang again at 7, 8, and 9. At 10 o'clock, I finally picked up. You can't do this to me. Lana's voice was pure fury now. Good evening, Lana. I trust you received my lawyer's letter. You're trying to destroy me. I'm trying to divorce you. There's a difference. You sent them everything, every private message, every photo, every conversation. I sent them evidence of adultery and abandonment. That's what people do in divorce cases. This is harassment. This is legal process. If you don't like it, you should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on me with your boss. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to take you for everything you have. Good luck with that. Make sure your lawyer explains how adultery affects property division in Texas. She hung up, but I knew this wasn't over. Lana had always been the type to escalate conflicts rather than resolve them, and she'd just received the kind of public humiliation that would make her want revenge. I was ready for whatever came next. Saturday morning brought the kind of drama I should have expected, but somehow didn't see coming. I was in my kitchen making coffee when I heard voices in my backyard. Not conversation voices, but argument voices, getting louder by the minute. I looked out my window and saw Lana standing near my back fence, talking animatedly to my neighbor, Bob, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world. I opened my back door and stepped onto my patio. Morning, Bob. Everything okay? Bob looked relieved to see me. Hey, Drake. Your wife here was asking about getting into your house. Says she locked herself out. Ex-wife, I corrected. And she wasn't locked out. She was locked out on purpose. Lana turned to face me with the kind of expression that could melt steel. I have every right to be in my own house. You have every right to be wherever you're living now. This isn't it. Bob looked back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match, probably realizing he'd stumbled into the middle of someone else's domestic drama. I'll just go back inside, Bob said, backing toward his own house. Thanks, Bob. Sorry for the disturbance. After Bob disappeared, Lana walked closer to my patio, stopping just outside what felt like reasonable conversation distance. We need to talk. We talked Tuesday night. You said it wasn't over. I said it was. Nothing's changed since then. Everything's changed since then. I got your lawyer's papers. Good. Then you understand this is a legal matter now. I understand you're trying to humiliate me. I'm trying to divorce you. The humiliation is a side effect of your own behavior. She climbed onto my patio without being invited, which seemed to be her signature move lately. Drake, this is ridiculous. We're adults. We can work this out without lawyers and courts and public records. We could have worked it out that way 2 weeks ago. But you chose to involve Derek, your friends, social media, my boss, and anyone else who would listen to your complaints about our marriage. You made this public, not me. I made mistakes. You made choices. There's a difference. Fine. I made choices, bad choices. But destroying my reputation and my ability to find work isn't going to make you feel better. This was interesting. Lana was starting to understand that actions have consequences, but she still thought this was about my feelings rather than basic accountability. This isn't about making me feel better. This is about making sure you can't hurt me anymore. How am I hurting you? I'm the one with no job, no money, and no place to live. You tried to get me fired, Lana. You called my boss and lied about my character and my work. You tried to destroy my career because I wouldn't fund your affair. That's not a mistake or a bad choice. That's a deliberate attempt to cause me serious harm. I was desperate. You were vindictive. And you showed me exactly what you're capable of when you don't get your way. She sat down on my patio furniture like she still lived there, which was either impressive confidence or complete delusion. So what happens now? You get your revenge and I lose everything? What happens now is you learn to live with the consequences of your own decisions, just like everyone else does. I can't get a job without references. I can't get an apartment without income. I can't start over with nothing. You should have thought about that before you burned down your life for a man who abandoned you the first time things got complicated. Derek lied to me. Derek told you what you wanted to hear. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and saw it was from Jessa. Lana's planning something. She's been making calls all morning. Thought you should know. I looked up at Lana, who was watching my face carefully. Expecting an important message? She asked. Just staying informed. About what? About whatever you're planning next. Her expression shifted slightly, just enough to confirm that Jessa's warning was accurate. I'm not planning anything. Sure you are. You're planning something dramatic and public that you think will force me to cooperate with whatever you want. The question is what it's going to be. She stood up and walked to the edge of my patio, looking out at the neighborhood like she was surveying territory. You know what your problem is, Drake? You think you're smarter than everyone else. I think I'm smarter than you. Recent events suggest I'm right about that. We'll see. She walked back through my yard toward the front of the house. I followed her, curious about what she was planning to do next. When we reached my front yard, I saw a small crowd gathered on the sidewalk. Mrs. Patterson was there with her beagle. Bob and his wife were standing near their mailbox. The young couple from 3 houses down were pretending to check their car while obviously listening to everything. Lana had an audience, which was exactly what she'd wanted. Drake, I'm asking you one more time to be reasonable about this, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I made mistakes, but I'm still your wife, and I deserve a chance to make things right. I realized this was a performance designed to make me look like the unreasonable one, the cruel husband who wouldn't forgive his repentant wife. Lana, you're not my wife anymore. You're the woman who left me for her boss and then tried to get me fired when I wouldn't pay for your affair. The neighbors exchanged glances. This wasn't the story they'd been expecting to hear. That's not what happened, Lana said, but her voice was less confident now. That's exactly what happened. You moved to New Orleans with Derek, posted pictures of your romantic getaway on social media, and then called my boss to make false accusations about my work when I changed the locks and moved the money. Mrs. Patterson's beagle chose that moment to bark, which somehow made the whole scene even more surreal. You're twisting everything, Lana said. I'm stating facts. Would you like me to show everyone the screenshots of your social media posts? The ones where you talked about finally being with someone who appreciates you? That's private. You posted it publicly, nothing about it was private. Bob's wife whispered something to Bob, who nodded and started walking back toward their house. The show was apparently over for them. Fine, Lana said, her voice getting louder as her audience began to disperse. You want to play games? I can play games too. I'm not playing games, I'm getting divorced. We'll see about that. She walked to the end of my driveway and turned back to face me. This isn't over, Drake. You think you've won, but you haven't won anything. You've just made an enemy out of someone who knows all your secrets. What secrets would those be? We'll find out. She walked away, and I went back inside my house wondering what secrets she thought she had. After 12 years of marriage, Lana knew plenty about my habits, my preferences, my insecurities, and my past mistakes. But I couldn't think of anything she could use against me that would be more damaging than what she'd already done to herself. Sunday afternoon, I found out what she'd been planning. I was working in my home office when my doorbell rang. I opened the front door to find 2 police officers standing on my porch. Mr. Torrin, we need to ask you some questions about a harassment complaint. Of course, come in. The officers were professional and polite, but they were clearly taking the complaint seriously. Someone had reported that I was stalking my estranged wife, interfering with her attempts to find employment, and making threats against her safety. Sir, we understand you've been following your wife and contacting her employers to prevent her from getting work. I invited them to sit down and offered them coffee, which they declined. Officers, I haven't seen my wife since Thursday night when she came to my house uninvited. I haven't followed her anywhere, and I haven't contacted any potential employers. I did provide information about her professional conduct to her former employer's HR department, but that was in response to her attempt to interfere with my own employment. Can you prove that? I can prove all of it. I showed them the timeline I'd created, the evidence I'd collected, and the legal documents my lawyer had filed. I showed them the records of Lana's calls to my boss, her social media posts, and her messages to friends about our marriage. The officers spent an hour reviewing everything, asking questions and taking notes. Mr. Torrin, based on what we're seeing here, it looks like your wife might be the one engaging in harassment. Have you considered filing a complaint of your own? I've been hoping she'd accept that our marriage is over and move on with her life. That doesn't appear to be happening. No, it doesn't. After the officers left, I called Patricia, my lawyer. Drake, this is escalation behavior. She's testing to see if she can use the legal system to force you to engage with her. It's not going to work, but it's going to be annoying. What should I do? Document everything. Keep records of every contact, every threat, every attempt to involve third parties, and consider getting a restraining order if this continues. Will that help? It will establish a legal record of her behavior, and it will make it clear that any further harassment will have serious consequences. That evening, Jessa called with more information about Lana's activities. She's been calling everyone we know, trying to get people to pressure you into taking her back. She's telling them you're being cruel and vindictive, that you won't even let her get her belongings from the house. What belongings? She took everything she wanted when she moved to New Orleans. That's what I told her. But she's claiming you're holding her hostage financially and emotionally. What are people saying? Most people are asking questions she can't answer, like why she moved in with Derek if she wanted to save her marriage, and why she tried to get you fired if she wanted you to take her back. And she's getting angry when people don't automatically take her side. She had a screaming match with Jennifer yesterday when Jennifer asked her why she posted all those photos with Derek if it wasn't serious. How's that working out for her? Jennifer's not speaking to her anymore, neither is Michelle. Word's getting around about what really happened, and people are starting to realize she's not the victim she's pretending to be. So she's running out of allies. She's running out of everything, and that's when people get dangerous. Monday morning proved Jessa right. I woke up to find my car windows covered with shaving cream and my front door decorated with toilet paper. It was juvenile and ineffective, but it was also trespassing and vandalism. I took photos of everything, cleaned up the mess, and called the police to file a report. Tuesday brought more escalation. Someone had called my 3 biggest clients to report that I was going through a difficult divorce and might not be able to focus on their projects properly. All 3 clients called me to ask if everything was okay. Just some drama with my ex-wife, I told each of them. Nothing that will affect my work for you. We figured it was something like that, said my biggest client. The person who called seemed more interested in causing problems than helping anyone. Wednesday, Lana tried a different approach. She showed up at my house with her own locksmith, claiming she had a legal right to access the marital home. I was ready for her. "Officers, she's back," I said into my phone as soon as I saw the locksmith van pull up. The police arrived before the locksmith could start working. They explained to Lana that she couldn't break into a house she didn't live in, regardless of her claims about marital property. "Ma'am, if you have a legal dispute about property access, you need to resolve that through the courts, not by hiring a locksmith." Lana argued with them for 20 minutes, but eventually the locksmith left, and she was forced to leave too. That evening, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Drake, this is Derek." I hadn't expected to hear from Lana's former lover, but I wasn't surprised either. "Hello, Derek. How's New Orleans?" "I'm back in Houston. We need to talk." "I don't think we do." "It's about Lana. She's out of control. She's been calling me, showing up at my office, making scenes. She's going to cause problems for both of us if someone doesn't stop her." "She's not my problem anymore. She thinks you're going to take her back if she can just create enough drama to force you to pay attention to her. She's wrong about that. I know she's wrong. You know she's wrong. But she doesn't know she's wrong, and she's not going to give up until someone makes her understand." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we work together to make it clear to her that neither of us wants her back, and that her current behavior is only making things worse for everyone." I considered this unexpected alliance. Derek had used my wife and abandoned her when things got complicated, but he was right about one thing. Lana wasn't going to stop escalating until someone forced her to face reality. "What did you have in mind?" "Meet me tomorrow night. I'll explain everything." Thursday evening found me sitting in a coffee shop downtown, waiting for Derek and wondering if I'd lost my mind. 3 weeks ago, this man had been sleeping with my wife and posting romantic photos on social media. Now he wanted to team up to deal with our mutual Lana problem. Derek arrived 15 minutes late, looking like a man who hadn't been sleeping well. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair needed cutting, and he had the kind of nervous energy that comes from being stalked by an ex-lover. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "This is weird, Derek." "Yeah, it's weird, but it's also necessary." He ordered coffee from the waitress and spent a moment organizing his thoughts. "Lana's been calling me 20 times a day. She shows up at my office, my gym, my apartment building. She's convinced that if she can just get rid of you, I'll take her back. And you won't? Hell no. That woman is insane. She was fun for a few months, but she's got no sense of boundaries and no understanding of consequences. The New Orleans trip was supposed to be a goodbye present, not the beginning of a new relationship. Did you tell her that? I tried to, but she only hears what she wants to hear. She's created this fantasy where you're the villain keeping us apart, and if she can just eliminate you from the picture, we'll live happily ever after. This was interesting information, but I wasn't sure what Derek expected me to do with it. So what's your plan? She's been trying to get me to meet her in New Orleans again. She thinks if we go back to the scene of our romantic weekend, she can convince me to give our relationship another chance. And I think we should let her believe that's going to happen. We. Derek leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was sharing state secrets. She wants both of us there. She's got some crazy idea that if she can get us in the same room, she can make us fight over her, and whoever wins gets to be with her. That's ridiculous. Of course it's ridiculous. But it's also an opportunity to make her understand, once and for all, that neither of us wants her. I considered this proposition while watching Derek fidget with his coffee cup. The man was clearly desperate to get Lana out of his life, but his plan sounded like something that could go wrong in about a dozen different ways. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we go to New Orleans, meet with her, and make it crystal clear that her behavior has destroyed any chance she had with either of us. You tell her the marriage is over, and you're never taking her back. I tell her the affair is over, and I'm never seeing her again. She gets the message from both of us at the same time, and maybe she finally accepts reality. Or she completely loses her mind and does something even more destructive. She's already doing destructive things. At least this way, we control the situation. I thought about the shaving cream on my car, the calls to my clients, the fake police report, the attempted break-in. Derek was right that Lana was already escalating her behavior. Maybe a direct confrontation would end it, or maybe it would make things worse. But the status quo wasn't working. When? This weekend. She's already booked a hotel room. She's expecting me Saturday night. And you want me to show up? I want us to show up together, united front. No possibility for her to play us against each other or create drama between us. Derek, I don't like you. You slept with my wife and helped destroy my marriage. The only reason I'm sitting here is because we have a common problem. I understand that. But right now, our common problem is bigger than our personal issues. He was right about that. And I was tired of dealing with Lana's escalating harassment campaigns. Fine, but we do this my way. What's your way? We record everything. We document her behavior. We make sure there are witnesses. And we make it clear that any future harassment will result in legal consequences. Agreed. We spent another hour planning the details. Derek would tell Lana he was ready to meet her in New Orleans to discuss their future. He'd suggest they meet at the same hotel where they'd stayed before, for sentimental reasons. I would arrive separately and join the conversation at a predetermined time. The goal was simple: make it impossible for Lana to maintain her delusions about either relationship, and make it clear that her current behavior was unacceptable. Friday morning, Derek called Lana and set the plan in motion. She's excited, he reported when he called me later. She thinks this is her chance to win me back and prove that you're not worth fighting for. What did you tell her about me being there? I told her I wanted to talk to both of you at the same time, to clear the air and make sure everyone understands where things stand. And she agreed to that? She thinks it's going to be a competition. She's planning to show you how much better suited she is for me than for you. This was going to be interesting. Saturday afternoon, I drove to New Orleans with a car full of recording equipment, legal documents, and a growing sense that this was either going to solve my Lana problem permanently or create an entirely new set of problems I hadn't anticipated. Derek and I met at a coffee shop near the hotel to coordinate our approach. She's already here, he said. She's been texting me pictures of her outfit and asking what time I want to meet for dinner. What did you tell her? 7 o'clock in the hotel bar. Public place, lots of witnesses, hard for her to make a scene. And I show up when? 7:30. That gives me time to start the conversation and set the tone. We reviewed our plan one more time, checked our recording devices, and prepared for what we hoped would be the final chapter of the Lana drama. At 7:30, I walked into the hotel bar and saw Derek sitting at a corner table with my ex-wife. Lana was wearing a red dress that probably cost more money than she had, and she'd clearly spent significant time on her hair and makeup. She looked like she was dressed for a romantic evening, rather than a confrontation about her behavior. She saw me approaching, and her expression shifted from confident to confused. "What's he doing here?" "I invited him," Derek said. "We need to talk, all three of us." "This isn't what we discussed." "Sit down, Lana," I said, pulling out the third chair at their table. "We have things to discuss." She looked back and forth between us, probably trying to figure out if this was the competition she'd been expecting or something else entirely. "I don't want to talk to him," she said to Derek. "I want to talk to you. About us." "There is no us," Derek said. "That's what we need to discuss." The confusion on Lana's face was replaced by something that looked like panic. "What do you mean there's no us? We're here together. We're talking about our future." "No, Lana. We're here to talk about your behavior and why it needs to stop." I activated the recording app on my phone and set it on the table between us. "Lana, for the past 2 weeks you've been harassing me, vandalizing my property, calling my clients, and filing false police reports. That behavior ends tonight." "I haven't been harassing you. I've been trying to save our marriage." "You haven't been trying to save our marriage. You've been trying to force me to take you back because Derek doesn't want you." She turned to Derek, looking for support that wasn't coming. "Tell him that's not true. Tell him we're working things out." Derek shook his head. "Lana, I don't want to work things out. I don't want a relationship with you. The affair is over, and it's been over since the day I left you in New Orleans." "But you called me. You asked me to meet you here." "I asked you to meet me here so we could make it clear that your behavior is unacceptable and needs to stop." The panic on Lana's face was replaced by anger, which was what I'd been expecting. "You planned this. Both of you. You're working together against me." "We're working together to solve a problem," I said. "And the problem is that you won't accept that both relationships are over." "My marriage isn't over. Your marriage ended the day you moved to New Orleans with Derek." "The affair isn't over either," she said to Derek. "You still have feelings for me, I know you do." "I have feelings about you," Derek said. "Regret, mostly, and concern about your mental state." Lana stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. "This is insane. You can't just gang up on me like this." "We're not ganging up on you," I said. "We're making it clear that your harassment campaign isn't working and needs to stop." "What harassment campaign?" I pulled out my phone and started reading from my notes. Monday, vandalism of my car and property. Tuesday, false reports to my clients about my professional reliability. Wednesday, attempted illegal entry into my home with a locksmith. Thursday, false police report claiming I was stalking you. Friday, 23 phone calls to Derek's office. Saturday, threats against both of us if we didn't meet your demands. Those aren't harassment. Those are attempts to get your attention. Those are crimes, Lana, and they're going to stop. She looked around the bar, probably realizing that other patrons were watching our conversation with interest. "I'm not staying here and listening to this." "Yes, you are," Derek said, "because if you leave now, the next conversation you have about this will be with lawyers and police officers." She sat back down, but her body language made it clear she was ready to bolt at any moment. "What do you want from me?" "We want you to stop calling, texting, and showing up at our homes and workplaces," I said. "We want you to stop involving third parties in your attempts to force us to engage with you. We want you to accept that both relationships are over and move on with your life." And if I don't? Then we file restraining orders, press charges for the crimes you've already committed, and make sure everyone in Houston knows exactly what kind of person you are when you don't get your way. Derek leaned forward, adding his own threat to mine. Lana, I have recordings of your voice messages, screenshots of your texts, and security footage of you showing up at my office. I also have witnesses who saw you making scenes in public places. If you don't stop this behavior, I'm going to make sure it follows you everywhere you go. She looked back and forth between us, her eyes darting like she was trying to figure out which one of us would crack first. For the first time since this entire disaster began, she actually seemed to grasp that this wasn't some dramatic lover's quarrel or a moment she could cry or flirt her way out of. It finally registered. We were serious, and this time she didn't control the room. "You can't do this to me," she said, her voice rising just enough to draw a glance from the couple at the table behind us. "I'm not some crazy ex-girlfriend. I'm a person with feelings and rights." She said rights, like it was a magic word, like everything she'd done should be forgiven because she was upset. "You're a person whose feelings led her to commit crimes," I said calmly. "And your rights don't include harassing people who don't want to be with you. You crossed a line, Lana. Several lines." Her jaw tightened, and for a second I could see the anger she usually tried to hide behind charm. "Fine," she snapped, standing up again, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Fine. You want me gone? I'm gone. But don't expect me to just disappear quietly." "Actually," Derek said from across the table, leaning back with that deliberate calm he'd practiced for years, "that's exactly what we expect." She grabbed her purse, more like snatched it, and tried to walk out with dignity, but her shoes wobbled and her steps were too fast, too sharp. At the door, she turned back one last time, as if she needed a dramatic exit line to make herself feel relevant. "This isn't over." "Yeah, Lana," I said, echoing the exact words I'd thrown at her on my front porch 2 weeks earlier, when she'd tried manipulating her way back into my life. "It is." This time, she understood I meant it. She pushed open the door and vanished into the humid New Orleans night, swallowed by the neon lights and the noise of the street. Derek and I sat in silence for a moment, staring at the empty doorway as if waiting to see whether she'd come storming back in. "Think that worked?" Derek asked finally, exhaling hard. "We'll find out," I said. I thumbed the recording app off and slipped my phone into my pocket. That recording was insurance, my last resort if she tried to twist the truth again. I hoped I wouldn't need it, but with Lana, hope was never a strategy. "Derek," I said, turning toward him, "this doesn't make us friends." "I know," he replied, not offended in the slightest. "But thanks for helping me deal with this. Thanks for not punching me in the face when I showed up with a plan to work together." "The night's still young," I said dryly. He laughed. Not forced, not defensive, just a genuine laugh. That surprised me more than anything. "For what it's worth, Drake," he said, "she was wrong about you. You're not unmotivated or satisfied with mediocrity. You're just someone who refuses to set himself on fire to keep someone else warm." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "And for what it's worth, Derek, you're exactly the kind of person she deserved to end up with." He winced. Ouch. But not the kind of person she was smart enough to keep. That earned a small, bitter smile. We finished our drinks quietly, each of us lost in our own thoughts. When we finally stood and walked out of the bar, we went in opposite directions without needing to say goodbye. Whatever strange, temporary alliance we'd formed dissolved as soon as the situation did. I drove back to Houston that night, with the windows cracked open and the warm wind blowing through my car. I kept thinking about choices, consequences, and the thin, dangerous line between helping someone and enabling them. Lana had lived her life expecting the world to bend for her feelings. I'd finally stopped being part of that world. Sunday morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, to the kind of quiet that used to feel lonely, but now felt like peace. My phone sat on the nightstand, completely still, no missed calls, no demanding messages, no guilt-laced paragraphs begging for attention. For the first time in weeks, Lana had left me alone. I made coffee, read the news, and let myself enjoy the simplest routines. It felt like reclaiming pieces of myself I didn't know I'd given away. 3 weeks later, the divorce papers were finalized. Lana didn't contest anything. She didn't fight, didn't cry in the courtroom, didn't demand alimony or a portion of the house. She just signed the papers with a blank expression, avoided eye contact, and walked out like she couldn't wait to start a new performance somewhere else. According to Jessa, she moved to Dallas and found work at a small real estate company, the kind that hired fast and asked few questions. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't stable, but it was a fresh start she'd have to build without manipulating anyone. She had nothing left to leverage. And honestly, that was exactly what she'd earned. As for me, I kept the house I'd renovated with my own hands, the job I'd worked my way into, the clients who trusted me, and, most importantly, my self-respect. I kept the lesson, too, the difference between love and dependency, between caring for someone and being consumed by them. It was an expensive education, but looking back, it was worth every single penny.